On tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs Related podcast, the Cubs sweep the Cleveland Guardians. They have a 4-game lead in the NL Central. 2 of their outfielders are starting the All-Star game, and the vibes are high on tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs Related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs Related podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined as always by Brendan, and we are coming to you live. It is almost the 4th of July, and as our little header showed, we got some early fireworks from the Chicago Cubs. They sweep the Cleveland Guardians, a Matt Shaw walk-off, a 1-0 finale and extras to win it. And Brendan, I'm feeling good. The Brewers lost. The lead's back up to 4. We have a ton to discuss, but I am going to start by asking you a question that I already put out on social media. Have the Cubs ever won 3 straight games from a team from Cleveland, and the last one coming in extra innings?
You know, I'm trying to think. Was it a 1-run game too?
Hold on, let me just adjust. Let me just adjust real quick. Oh,
wait, does that say World Series?
Oh,
World Series champions, I think.
They must hate playing us, dude. Like,
I feel bad for him, you know? Like, if I were
I'm like leading the charge, but like, I feel like, and we deserve to be, but we're like really annoying about that. Like, and I love it.
We're awful people. And I will be 80 years old, I'll be doing the same exact thing, you know?
All right, folks, welcome in. We got a good bit of you joining here live on the YouTube chat. We appreciate you. If you're listening later on the 4th of July on your podcast feeds or over the weekend, we appreciate that. Happy to spend your holiday weekend with you, our holiday weekend with you. We have plenty to talk about. The Cubs sweep the Cleveland Guardians. Obviously, since you and I last spoke, Brendan, they dropped 2 of 3 in Houston. Just the full picture, but the Brewers losing again to the Mets on Thursday. The division lead is back up to 4. We have Cade Horton's best start of his career here against Cleveland. Matt Shaw, situational hitting with the walk-off off of one of the best, closers in baseball, no less, right?
Yeah.
We got Matthew Boyd doing his thing again, phenomenal to start this series. We'll have Brendan take a look at Shota, his second start back, kind of what we're seeing there, how Craig and Tommy are managing him. Kyle Tucker, Crow-Armstrong starting the All-Star game, loaded.
You're running out of breath talking about all these topics.
Playing against lefties, like stuff is happening, Brendan.
I know. This past week has been a series of highs and lows. We were staring 1 game up in the division with Milwaukee playing well.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you blink, you get Shota back. You get Cade Horton throwing 7 innings. They're 4 games up, Corey, just like that. Yeah. And they're able to sustain some of these, slumps, some of these valleys, if you will, with one facet of their roster performing. And this week for me, it was timely base running. I know they had those mishaps in the second game, but good base running. It's consolidating top end of the lineup with run production, and the bullpen continues to impress.
Yeah, it's been interesting, especially how this team has kind of ebbed and flowed, where you have those periods where it's like the offense is driving the ship, like that's it. And, this series was very much like the pitching, just incredible work. Shota was great, obviously, a few home runs, but other than that, no damage. And he's shorter starts until he works his way back, but just phenomenal from Matthew Boyd and Cade Horton in this series, which is, again, as you say, like just sort of the natural flow and back and forth of the baseball season. Really, they still need starters at the deadline. Of course, it's very important, but just very funny. Like for our last episode, it was like, it's dire. They, like if they don't get a pitcher tomorrow, the earth is going to consume itself. And, here, Matthew Boyd, Cade Horton go out there. They go deep into the game. You get length out of them, and your bullpen continues to just do exceptional work. One of the other things, and, I think specifics that we'll get into as the show goes on. We have talked about the bullpen, especially as we head into the deadline here. We've talked about him before, but Gasolina,
Dude,
looking good, man. Like how do we, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later, but just like a preview, we got to talk about Daniel Palencia. I was telling everybody, like when I was there at the game, his first save of this series, he hit 101. Everybody, you can hear the murmur and the oohs. And then the 102 came next, and it was like, like from 40,000 people, like all at once. It was great.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, what a development he has been. We'll talk about it, though. A lot to talk about Palencia.
To start, like, I tweeted this, but like incredible atmosphere at Wrigley Field. Like it's always a great atmosphere, but I feel like something with them coming back on this homestand, almost a holiday weekend. It's been hot, really hot in Chicago. Like the energy was like lifted. You're starting to feel that vibe of like, oh, it's summer in Chicago, beautiful Wrigley Field, and this team is legit. And like in my opinion, you can kind of feel that in the crowd, if that makes sense. I don't know if it comes across on TV or anything like that.
I mean, you're listening to Pat Hughes. He's talking about, oh my gosh, the atmosphere of Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
The quintessential Pat Hughes calls to the atmosphere environment. You can tell. So it's not just like on the TV broadcast. You can hear it on the radio broadcast. It's tangible. You got the guys taking boat rides on their off days. They're loving Chicago summer.
Yes, it does look like Kyle Tucker is, figuring out how great Chicago is.
Chicago's the best summer city in the world. Nice. Undeniably the world.
Kyle, if you're taking notes, I did as part of, I got like a giveaway, you get to pick a couple giveaways as a season ticket holder. If you, the gate giveaways, if you can't get there early. And I got the replica throwback jersey. It's too big on me, but it's still cool. But they also gave like these little like trading cards. So this guy's joining us tonight. Got a little
Kyle put him in the center of
probably get it framed, put it under my pillow when I go to bed at night.
I haven't seen you this happy about a Cubs player since John Lester.
I love Kyle Tucker, dude. I have to like chill a little bit because like
you can fall in love. It's okay.
I can't fall in love if he's gonna leave. And it's up to Tom, and I wish we didn't have to, but like I gotta protect my heart, Brendan. John Lester was here for several years. Like
you got to go where the heart goes.
Let's start with that, though. I know Cody and Luke and the boys talked about this last night after the news broke. But, for our sake, we're only on here once a week. Absolutely incredible, Brendan, that the Chicago Cubs have 2 starting outfielders in this All-Star game coming up in Atlanta. One of them, your 23-year-old breakout star who is taking over baseball PCA chants every game you go to, ringing out every time he comes up. And he has taken it to that level that he is starting the All-Star game. And the other one is Kyle Tucker, the superstar you traded for, who I will bang this drum. Like I will make, if it is the last thing I ever do, Brendan, everyone in this city will understand how good and valuable Kyle Tucker is. Even if you already think I don't think you appreciate it enough.
No. His numbers are absolutely absurd. If you want to create a player and MLB The Show, you want someone that's fast. You want someone that hits the ball a lot. You want someone that hits the ball far. You want someone that fields well. Every single metric, every single trait you see from Tucker is exactly what you want. His base running value, you saw it. He saw his 21st base against Cleveland. His base running overall values in the 95th percentile. You talk about chase rate. Only 5 guys have better chase rates than Kyle Tucker in the league right now. You talk about contact rate. He's in the 80th percentile of contact rate. You talk about power. You talk about everything. 90th percentile. Baseball Savant page is all red. Now, from a total package portfolio, if you will, he is one of the most valuable players we have had. It is reminiscent of KB, back in the golden era. But quite frankly, in terms of a comfortable at bat, what Tucker provides that we have not seen from a slugger, maybe since Rizzo, maybe even way back then to the Moises Alou, Sammy Sosa days, Derek Lee days, is the combination of power, speed, and discipline all across the board. Tucker is one of those unique unicorn players.
So he has the power and the speed
to be the
to.
best in the National League.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
I have a Kyle Tucker couple stats that I already tweeted out. Sorry to keep reading my own tweets, but I like the thoughts. That's why I put them out there. Before I get to that, though, this is the second time I've done this in like the last month. And I do need to remind you all that this show is driven by Toyota, Let's Go Places, and Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Brendan, I was so jacked up to start this show that I forgot to thank our wonderful sponsors. So that's on me, but we'll continue to do that. Here's a couple things from Kyle Tucker to put things in context, what he's doing. Now, this was before the game on Thursday night, but I don't think this should really affect those things that much. Here is where he ranks, Brendan, in some of these stats relative to all qualified hitters in Major League Baseball, and then where those numbers would rank for his career. Now, keep in mind, his best overall season in a lot of these metrics is last year, the shortened one. So do with that what you will, right? He put up those numbers, but it wasn't a full season.
In 374 plate appearances, to be specific.
Right. So just keep that in mind. So
which I memorized, by the way.
WRC plus, he is 5th in all of Major League Baseball. That would be his number now, 155. Again, coming into tonight's game, I apologize for not updating it. That would be the second best of his entire career. 393 weighted on base average. That is the 6th best in Major League Baseball, the second best in Kyle Tucker's career. 923 OPS, 6th best in Major League Baseball, second in Kyle Tucker's career. 290 average, 22nd in baseball, second best of Kyle Tucker's career, and a walk per strikeout rate a bit north of 1. That is 5th in all of baseball, and that would be tied for the first.
That's the key one right there.
In his entire career. Now, wait, before you go, Brendan, I do just want to add, the only reason I include batting average there is it's not my favorite stat, but it's one of those things that even as you see him slug and all the stuff you're watching him do and looking at how high he ranks in these overall offensive output numbers, he's also one of the top 25 hitters in batting average.
Why do you not like batting average?
Good.
I love batting average. I was like a 500 hitter back in the day.
You know what I meant. It's not like an all-encompassing thing, but I'm saying even pick whatever stat you want.
Listen, there's nothing like those threes. Okay.
So good.
So good.
And he's almost hitting 300, Brendan.
I understand. Well, that's the point I'm making is you don't see hitters do exactly what Tucker's doing. There's always a sacrifice. Some guys who have longer swings, faster swings, they accept more whiffs. But for Tucker, despite having that power, he doesn't whiff. And for some guys like Pete, who's hyper aggressive, Javi Baez, hyper aggressive, even Rizzo back in the day, despite some of the power numbers he showed, had a chase rate that was about league average. Tucker is taking the best features of all your Cubs hitters, your favorite hitters over the past 30 years. Every single best trait of your favorite hitter, and he's encompassing that in his play. Now, I understand we had the whole Houston Astros thing, the Cam Smith thing. I do feel like we're underselling how good he has been. Like Tucker legitimately, I do want to cement this in, fans' brains. He is the most projectable Cubs slugger we have seen in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And that's not being hyperbolic. He is the most projectable because of the contact, because of the chase, and because of the power. So when I look at Tucker and I see him on this team in a World Series contention year, quite frankly, I don't care who we trade. Now you can talk about it, et cetera, but we're almost underselling just how good this guy has been.
That's also why I wanted to read how his numbers would rank in his career. Not only has he been like as advertised, he's been great. He's literally putting up the best season of his career. On a war pace. He's on pace to blow like almost not double, but like close his best season.
Right.
Totally as advertised. This is the type of move big organizations make, and it's on Tom to put his big boy pants on and write the check because, and we'll hit our first ad break here, pairing that with your 23-year-old superstar center fielder has blossomed into the starting center fielder for the National League All-Stars, and it's deserved. Like, and so
Absolutely.
that should embolden them to pay Kyle. I'm really happy for those two guys. I see it in the chat too. Like, I don't know if we'll belabor it too much. We'll see what happens when they finalize the rosters. There's the position players, the players, I think, vote, the coaches vote, however that happens. But yeah, there's a few other Cubs. Like, I think they ought to be in the mix, at least as like subs if guys get hurt.
Yeah, the entire roster.
Seiya Suzuki has 74 RBIs, Brendan. He's almost at his career high. Matthew Boyd, sub-3 ERA. Like, I think the Cubs have some other contenders here. Brad Keller.
I mean, you're naming all the big stats. Batting average, RBIs. No, I'm joking.
Oh, man. Get out of here. I quit.
All
right, let's hit our first ad break here. We'll come back and we'll continue talking about your first place Chicago Cubs.
Okay, hey baseball fans, if you're thinking about upgrading your drive this season, Toyota's 2025 lineup is definitely worth a look. There's the RAV4, it's versatile, reliable, always ready for a little adventure. Summer starts here right now. From adventures to weekend escapes, our versatile lineup is ready to ride with amazing deals to match. Visit your local dealer. Find yours today. You can check them out and the full lineup at toyota.com or stop by your local dealer, Chicagoland Toyota dealership today. Toyota, let's go places. And go to allchgo.com for the latest information on how you can join the thousands of CHGO diehards in our community. I was in that Discord today. It is hot, Corey. Cubs sweep in Cleveland, playing well, all-star nods. So go to allchgo.com for the latest info, and you can join them today. And nobody likes being hot, sweaty, and sticky. You toss, you turn, you stick to the couch. It's miserable, but stepping into cool, crisp air conditioning, that is heaven. Summer's coming fast. Is your AC ready? Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has kept Chicagoland cool for over 50 years. Remember last summer, 114 degrees heat index at O'Hare, Chicago's hottest year ever. Remember last week, you got guys passing out on the Wrigley Field mound. Very hot. Do not get stuck with weak AC when the new heat wave hits. You can sweat the Cubs game, but you should not sweat in your own home. With no extra charge for nights, weekends, or holidays, you can trust Four Seasons Expert Techs to get the job done right. Schedule your $50 off tune-up today with a 1-year no-breakdown guarantee. Call 866-4Seasons or visit fourseasonsheating.net. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money savings coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com.
All right, Brendan, nicely done. Back with you here. I do, we are obviously live after the game on Thursday night, so we're going to talk about a ton of stuff, not just the Thursday night game, but I do want to, we're riding the high vibes of a walk-off. I do want to give major shout out. Like, that was quality stuff from Matt Shaw. Like, obviously a lot has been made about his offense. He's adjusting, he's growing. It's been all over the place in terms of, the stuff going on for him at the plate. He's been phenomenal at third base. I mean, just that game last night, had to be 3 plays that were just really, really nice plays. The type of plays like you have to be fine to the detail, a little bobble, a little slow, everything. You're not getting that out. And they were huge outs, especially in these close games. But that's just a really good piece of hitting. Brendan, Michael Busch gets him over. And a really good piece of hitting from Matt Shaw in a tough spot against a tough pitcher to hit that ball to the outfield and get the run in and get the W.
It'll be interesting how they manage Shaw over the next 3 weeks in terms of their expectations for his offense, whether or not they want to go out and get a offensive boost in the form of a trade, or if they're comfortable with the defense, then they use some of those resources to shore up, let's say, the bullpen, shore up the starting rotation staff. But what I'm looking for Shaw, I don't know what you're looking for, the constant changes he's made is noticeable in neither a good or bad way. So I'm watching the game last week. I'm looking at this toe tap. So he's using this new toe tap that he wasn't showing, at least from when I went back on Baseball Savant, until June 24th. And so that's one change. And it's layering on these changes that previously he made, including a more upright stance, tapering back his leg stride. And I'm not seeing like the immediate results that I thought I was going to see. Now, when he came back from AAA after his demotion, you saw it for a little bit. You and I were talking about it. I'm like, oh, this is good. More balls driven to the right field in Miami, but it didn't last. And so let me show one example. And I'll throw it back to you before we continue this conversation. If you look at just exit velo and you compare Matt Shaw's exit velo to PCA's, in this graph, you can see from top to bottom is exit velo miles per hour. From left to right is April to July. Matt Shaw is significantly lower than PCA. That's obvious, right? PCA's your MVP, right? But PCA's average exit velo is league average. It's not as if PCA is smoking the ball either, but he does it at an elevated plane. But you can see really the gap in between those two. And Shaw's exit velo is actually almost the worst in the big leagues right now. And it's been the worst. But if you look at the last week and a half, see that trend upwards? See that little trend upwards? That's the hottest, relatively hottest, the best stretch he's shown in his career so far. And you're kind of seeing it in the last couple of games. You're seeing it even in the game in which he had the walk-off sac fly. It's starting to look a little bit like maybe he is finding some comfort. He's talked about this, but my final thought with Shaw is it doesn't feel like it's locked in yet.
Sure.
And it still feels like he's searching for it, even though he has had some good signs recently.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. It's going to be something to keep an eye on. Obviously, they're connected to third baseman. We can all read the rumors. What's true, what's not true, we don't know. And of course, internally, I don't know if there was something they wanted to see, like, okay, we're letting it ride. He's our third baseman for
You
the
mean
rest
for
of the year.
offense or just like the
Just in general. Like, it's hard to know. That's a front office decision. If they, are really happy with the glove and they feel like they are going to wait on the bat, if they feel like making a trade and change them, I'm not sure. We really don't know.
Let me ask you a question.
We read the rumors. Yeah,
we have 3 weeks, so 3 weeks until the deadline. It starts to really heat up. What do you like? Would you be comfortable? Let's say Shaw goes on a tear. Okay, he hits over 300, hits 5 home runs between now and the end of July. Are you comfortable not upgrading, or is that still too small of a sample for you to be comfortable with?
Man, it's
right?
tough, dude. I think,
tough.
honestly, like the real issue here is that, obviously, like we've seen Bush a little bit more against lefties recently, and we'll see if there's growth there. Obviously, that takes time for both him and PCA. The issue is and we talked about this even coming into the season, there's a lot of set spots on this team. There's not a lot of positional flexibility. You think about, to speak of the 2016 Chicago Cubs, right? Who won the World Series against
Yes,
Cleveland,
correct.
winning 3 straight games in a row, as a reminder. That team, Joe Maddon was putting guys everywhere, right? He had catchers in the outfield. Chris Bryant was playing the outfield.
Travis Wood in the outfield.
Ben Zobrist was playing 9 positions every night, right? Right. Travis Wood is playing left field. Everybody's doing everything. This team isn't really like that. You have some versatile guys, right? You can move Nico around if you wanted to, but Kyle Tucker's playing every day. Saya's playing every day. Ian Happ, Dansby, Nico, catchers are your catchers. Michael Bush is going to be in there more often than not. It only leaves a couple of spots to upgrade if you need to, and that's third base. And in theory, somebody platooning with Michael Bush, which I don't really think they need to be doing. Michael Bush has been fantastic. So that's the question. If they want to upgrade on offense, I think you can upgrade the bench. But
I mean, you can upgrade the entire bench.
The bench by putting you and me on the bench. But yeah. Right. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. But either way, fantastic defense from Matt Shaw and a really nice plate appearance tonight. We've seen enough guys, that everybody yells every time Dansby or somebody else doesn't come through with, the runner on third and, that situation. Really nice job by Matt Shaw. They needed it, and he got the job done on a night where no one was able to push runs across. Both teams wasted some chances. Cleveland wasted some really good chances. Matt Shaw, the guy to finally break through and do it. Yeah. Good for him. Nice to see, and we'll keep an eye on things. All right, let's transition here. Let's talk Cade Horton. Brennan, I want to talk about Cade Horton. That was the best start of his major league career. and just a really fantastic outing for him. And good to see, obviously, as we're heading to this deadline, I think for most people, a starting pitcher is at the top of their list. If you're in the YouTube chat right now, drop in the YouTube chat, like if you had to rank your priorities, a bat, a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, and you could only get one, I would imagine the tea leaves are telling us that Jed is like swinging for the fences here, right? That's what like JP, John Morosi's saying, all these other things. But drop in the chat, if you could only upgrade one spot of this team, what would you want it to be? Whether it's a big addition or a small addition, pick one of the three and let us know. For me, it's still a starting pitcher, but getting Shota back and seeing him look like himself, obviously needs to go deeper into games, but looking really good. And I'll let you dig in on some of that. Matthew Boyd continuing to do his thing. And then a start like this from Cade Horton on Thursday night, 7 innings, 5 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. It's an excellent start for Cade Horton. A shame he can't get the win. Obviously gets a no decision in this one. But just a phenomenal start from Cade Horton. And I think as we head to the deadline, like the thing with the starting pitchers, I had Diehard, one of our, YouTube regulars, Gary Ross, ask on Twitter the other day, like, what do you think? Is there any concern with like Matthew Boyd, coming off the injury, not throwing that many innings last year, and, similar to Cade Horton? And I think, like, candidly, the answer is like, kind of, we'll see. They may have an internal number where they're like, at this point, we really got to like shut this down. This is based on, years of looking at these guys and these workloads and things like that. But they're, everybody's a unique case, and you never really know. You got to monitor, like, how do the guys feel after starts? How does their velo look, to start games, going through games, as they go, back-to-back outings, things like that. It's not something where, they haven't given us this number. Sometimes it exists, but it's not as though we're sitting here going like, oh, okay, when he gets to, 100 innings, that's it. That's the number. That's what we really don't know. So I think you ride it as long as you can. You pay attention to the signs and, make sure you're keeping these guys healthy. But that also goes into the conversation that these guys were excellent in this series. And they, Matthew Boyd especially has been excellent. I think he deserves to be an all-star with the way that he's performed. But there is that variable there of like, are they going to run out of gas? And is that something that Jed needs to prepare for? And, I think especially given the rest of the rotation, the answer is yes. And my number one at the deadline would be a starting pitcher.
Matthew Boyd, career high innings. Cade Horton has 81 innings between AAA and the big leagues right now. Regardless of the internal belief, if they can get to September, the reality is they have not done it. So that unknown there is a big unknown. If you have a team solidified offensively with, say, Suzuki, Kyle Tucker, PCA's emergence, and then a consistent performance across the board from the rest of the roster, you want to capitalize on that projection. Your offense right now is stably projected to produce. So to match that, the best way to ensure you don't risk some type of elongated funk or some small sample variation is to shore up as best as possible your pitching staff. So, of course, you want to see Cade Horton continue to pitch well. The hope is he doesn't just throw 100 innings, but 125. Now, the reports are those innings limits are no longer there. That's been an internal reevaluation from the Cubs pitching infrastructure. Those bearings have been removed. Still, though, he has not shown it. So despite the intention for them to push forward, they still have to do it. Tyone, he's going to hit his innings limit max career-wise at this pace. Shota Imanaga, he had the hamstring injury, but this will be his first full year going, hopefully, into October, not just ending at the end of September.
Not full, partial, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Right. So there's unknowns there. And as best as good as that 2016 roster was offensively, it was the starting pitching staff that really solidified and shrunk that random nonsense once you got into the playoffs. And my hope is we're able to do that again.
Yeah. All right, we're going to hit our second ad break here. When we come back, though, we'll dive more into what we saw from Cade Horton and Shota in these last two games, just see what they
Yeah.
were doing, what was working. And we'll let the pitch doctor take us into the lab a little bit. But we're going to hit our second ad break here. We'll be back to talk more about, again, your first place Chicago Cubs.
What is Sunnyside? Is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a bright, welcoming place where everyone from first-time timers to seasoned pros can explore and enjoy. Sunnyside is your one-stop shop for summer vibes with over 100 strains, expert guidance, and easy online ordering with in-store pickup. It's located across Illinois from Wrigleyville and River North to Champaign and Seth Beloit. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary. If you're just starting out, we've got trusted brands like Good News and Mindy's, and our wellness advisors are here to help. If you're already a pro, you'll love the Staff Picks collection, plus top quality strains from Cresco and Florical with new options daily. Visit sunnyside.shop and get 50% off your first 3 online purchases with promo code HICHGO. Exclusions do apply. If you're already a customer, use CHGO 50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Must be 21 or over or an Illinois card holder. Just like your favorite team needs that home field advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has expert flooring guidance, no part-timers or hardware generalists. There are dedicated pros who live and breathe flooring with you every single day. We've all been to those big box stores, endless aisles, confusing choices. Somehow your home materials home, finding an installer and hoping it all just works out. Let's be real. The person helping you today might have been stocking light bulbs yesterday. Empire Today is a whole different ball game. They bring the showroom to you so you can see flooring options in your actual space with your lighting, your furniture, and your style. You'll get precise measurements, expert advice, clear upfront pricing with installation as soon as the next day. No stress, no surprises. Some things are just better at home. Schedule your free in-home estimate today. Get $350 discount when you use promo code CHGO. That's right, $350 off with code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/CHGO for full details.
All right, Brendan, back with you here. Let me ask you something. I was thinking about this too. Like, is there part of you, like, does it, I know we're like, we came on the air right after this game, like, et cetera, et cetera. Did it dawn on you at all? Like, we just watched the Cubs win a 1-0 game, started by Cade Horton, won by Matt Shaw.
You know, sometimes I gotta slap myself in the face to realize that. And you have
the day after Pete Crow-Armstrong was named the starting center fielder in the All-Star game.
I was about to say, yeah, with Kyle Tucker in right field. Yeah, it's weird how baseball changes.
But like,
so
even
fast.
just thinking about these guys that we've been reading about in the pipeline and watching come through the system, like, there's been a few of these games, honestly, this year. But like, that's cool, man. Like, that's just cool.
Sometimes you gotta savor those victories too. And that's what I'm trying to realize for myself as I watch, you know, this new era compared to 2016, 2017. It ended so abruptly, right? So I always told myself, you know, in the dark days in 2020, 2021, once we get back to this point, I am no longer going to be looking forth, you know, a year, 2 years from now. I'm going to enjoy those day-to-day games, those small little moments, because baseball is so stupid. You know, I always say this. You look at the Yankees right now, they are getting smoked. They're now in second place. You look at the Mets, they're going through a funk. Baseball is so fickle. Atlanta's like 10 games below 500. You just never know. So I'm going to embrace watching Kyle Tucker put up these numbers, PCA starting in center field, and whatever ends up being in the offseason, save it for the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
unless you want to, you know, sign them, you know,
lose
tomorrow.
your mind over these games. But yeah, like, otherwise, that's like mostly true.
I'm trying to project, you know, some confidence over here.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Don't show me text.
Yeah. Right. All right. Let's dive into some of the specifics of what we saw from Cade Horton and Shota. I don't know if there's one you want to start with.
Oh, yeah.
I think with Shota, you know, the interesting thing is just, you know, what are we seeing as he's come back? Obviously, just a couple starts here. They're keeping it short, monitoring the pitch count. You know, the ball was leaving the park last night, but limiting the damage. And if you're going to give up homers, you want to do it with nobody on base. And, you know, look, the Cubs won the game. So that's always the key. You know, if you don't have your best stuff or you make a few mistakes, keep the team in the game. And that's what Shota did. But what are you seeing from Shota? And then we can get to Cade Horton too.
So Shota's first start back from the IL, fastball was too low. So he lives atop of the zone, right? Low release point, fastball has some natural carry on it. That's how he gets his whiffs. So in the second start, against Cleveland, I'm looking at, okay, where is that fastball command? So if we look at it, those red fastballs, see how they're living atop the zone right there? There's a huge cluster, top right, of red fastballs. That's where you want Shota to live. Now you look at that splitter, right? Second question is, well, where is the splitter located? Where are those teal splitters located? A little bit up, but still a lot towards the bottom end of that black part of the zone. But still, it's a little bit up. In some of those pitches you see heavy in, those were hit for home runs. But the majority, Corey, were actually pretty good. I thought he looked significantly better against Cleveland than he did in his first start. Now, if you were to overlay his similar graph from the first start, those red four-seam fastballs, those splitters, more crunched in the middle of the zone. He just was not locating atop the zone. Also, though, different lineups. So you're seeing, a lot of splitters here. In his first start back from the IL, who's actually throwing more sweepers, right? So different lineup, different strategy. This lineup specifically tailored to his strengths because he was able to actually show his splitter that he uses as his dominant pitch type, whereas in the first start, had to rely on some pitch types he typically doesn't throw as frequent as that splitter. Overall, couldn't be happier, honestly, from Shota's second start back, just given what we need from him, and he's showing it.
Yeah, it's obviously nice to have him back, and I appreciate, them taking their time with him. I am quite looking forward to the point that he is like unleashed, and we get to kind of.
I think we're going to see it soon.
Yeah. No, I meant that seriously. Like
Yeah.
I'm glad they're taking their time with him. Like they're managing it, and it's one of the luxuries that the way this bullpen has performed affords you. Like you're able to feel comfortable taking him out and turning the ball over in the sixth inning, and you feel comfortable with these guys. A little bit of a roller coaster sometimes with some of these guys, but they're getting the job done, man. And that 8-9 combo of Brad Keller to Daniel Palencia has just been lights out. So really good to have Shota back. I think he looks good. And I think, most importantly, Brendan, like, and you talked about this, like when you come back from an injury like that, especially a guy only going into his second year in Major League Baseball, you just want him to look the same and just look like himself. And I think we've seen that from Shota. Of course, he's got to get, he'll want to get back to the 100 pitch mark. He'll want to be pitching into the 8th inning, etc. But really nice to have him back. And I think he looks like himself. That was the other thing, Brendan, too. Like in this series, like it's not something I would have to look. I would wonder aloud if this has happened all season. But two starters in this series getting through 7 innings. I mean, how nice was that?
Yeah, anecdotally, it's got to be the first one, right? And coming from Cade Horton, has to be, right? Coming from Cade Horton too. Just to touch on Cade
Boyd. Matthew Boyd was going short, for the majority of the earlier in the season.
Right.
He was striking out too many guys. He was throwing too many pitches.
Yeah, I mean, and he's quite frankly just emulating what Justin Steele provided from a production standpoint last year. So that's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Cade Horton.
Yeah. So, I mean, Cade, he's a fascinating case because what he's doing to produce value is not what I would have expected. He's not walking many guys. His walk per 9 is under 3. He's not striking out that many guys. His K per 9 is around 7, but his contact rate and his whiff rate is actually slightly better than league average. So that's a great sign. The fastball, watch these starts, and you guys can tell me, what you see. But when he misses his fastball command, it's down in the zone. And, that's fine. He's getting a lot of ground balls, but in a way, it's almost like, is that sustainable for Cade? And this was his best start from a production standpoint for sure tonight, but there's still times where he's just hammering the zone with those fastballs, and he's getting weak contact. But part of me wonders, okay, is this like the current developmental, switch that he needs to make to really own in on that fastball command to hit his spots? And when that does happen, and I say when, because I'm confident it will, then will the whiffs start to come and his strikeouts start to come as well? Because everything else is progressing at a faster than expected pace for me. The changeup, he's making Jose Ramirez flail on multiple changeups. Wednesday night, you're seeing the sweeper look exactly like what was advertised, and the fastball with the velocity be 95, 96, 97, carrying deeper in the game. I did not expect that to be so stable this fast. So the next step for me, frankly, is just consistent fastball command. I want to see that. But at the same time, I don't know how fair I am with that command. I don't know if it's an intentional, like deliberate effort to go a little bit more middle in, but I don't know if I don't think it is. In a way, I see some one last thought. I see some like some some harmonization with how Ben Brown was throwing, where they're just hammering the hell out of the strike zone. It is fastball, fastball, fastball. And for Ben Brown, that ultimately led to some poor production. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Cade Horton, but I do wonder if it's been like a philosophical switch for the Cubs and just hammering that strike zone.
Yeah, and I mean, it was Cliff Floyd. I think it was Cliff Floyd or Boog on the broadcast tonight, but I think it was Cliff Floyd talking about just that, like,
Yeah.
two strike pitches where you're catching too much of the plate, like don't throw that one again. But I think they elaborated, and I think the answer to kind of what you're thinking aloud is like, I think it's just getting comfortable, right? Like getting comfortable in the big leagues, and if guys are hitting you, that's preferred to missing the zone and trying to be too fine, with what you're doing there and hitting the spots and things, and that'll come in time. But, for Cade, it's really exciting to see the way that he has been called up and grown. I think it's a huge development.
Dramatically.
Like, is he going to be in a spot where he's pitching one of these playoff games? Like, probably not. I don't think he has the bullets in the arm. But again, I don't know what they're planning to do with him. Who knows? But for him to get called up, he didn't spend a ton of time in the minors, like in his whole career. Obviously he dealt with some injuries in his career. For him to come, and he's had some bad starts, but like you see it in a start like this, like he's learning, he's actively getting better. And I was just looking at some of the quotes from him post game, and he said success breeds confidence.
He's
Right?
got that attitude,
He does. Yeah.
He does.
I mean, and look, I respect anybody. You don't see it a lot in 2025 anymore, but rocking the straight, like 1998 Stone Cold Steve Austin goatee only. Like, now we're
All
talking.
right.
But just really good to see this development. But getting to what he said, success breeds confidence. Like, these are big starts. And that's kind of what I mean about like the, being able to have that like Jacob deGrom like command. Like, not everybody can do that. But even if you're going to get there, like, takes time. You got to learn how to pitch in these big environments. You're going from minor league baseball now, 42,000 fans standing up every time there's two strikes, or the bases loaded, 3-2 count, stuff like that. Big hitters like Jose Ramirez. This Cleveland lineup isn't great, but it's got some good hitters in it. And I think it's a big step for him. And I think, the fine details will come. But to see him bounce back from some rough starts and start to kind of put things together, you see some of this start to click. It may not be it's not the most important development for the Cubs in 2025. That would be your center fielder, who is going to get MVP votes and is starting the All-Star game. PCA. If you're not familiar with him, I saw it in our YouTube chat. I know you guys saw it on the game, but it was spelled out on the chests of some of our younger friends in the bleachers at beautiful historic Wrigley Field tonight. That name is Pete Crow-Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
That is the most significant development you're going to get from the Chicago Cubs in 2025. But seeing Cade come up, make those starts every fifth day, Brendan, with consistency and taking strides, even if it hasn't been better start to start, you can see stuff getting better from him.
Absolutely.
From when he came up. It's a huge development and a great start on Thursday. And we say this all the time, man, like they needed it. Matthew Boyd has been the guy, as you said, that filled the Justin Steele gap. Just a massive, where this team would be without Matthew Boyd stepping up. It's a different conversation. But Cade Horton tonight, like, offense wasn't doing anything. Offense was out of gas. Like, and for him to go blow for blow there and get the job done and keep Cleveland at 0 again for 7 innings, like the Cubs, have had so much time with very few off days. That one on Monday was their first in a couple weeks. Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia, back-to-back nights, shutting games down. So important for him to go deep in this game on Thursday night. And really exciting to watch him continue to develop here. So We're going to take our third ad break here. When we come back, I feel like we talked about a ton, but if you forgot anything, drop it in the chat. I know at least one thing we got to talk about Daniel Palencia. So
we
do
will.
that.
We will.
Yes, when we come back. But we're going to take our third and final ad break here, and then we'll be back. Again, have I mentioned that we'll be back to talk about your first place Chicago Cubs?
Okay, summer travel season is here. If you're like me, packing always turns into overpacking. Toiletry bag exploding. Simplify your routine with Mando. The Mando 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar is a game changer. Shampoo, face wash, body wash, and deodorant all in one bar. It saves space in your bag and keeps you fresh from head to toe. But what I really love is Mando's whole body deodorant stick is safe to use anywhere, pits, thighs, belly button, even your private, most personal areas. No other deodorant goes this far, and it works seriously. Mando's clinical proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. My favorite scent is the Cloverwoods, clean, fresh, not overpowering. And yeah, I made it part of my daily routine. I feel fresher, more confident, and I don't have to think about it again all day. Mando starter pack is perfect for first-time users. Includes a solid stick, cream deodorant, 2 free products like wipes or mini body wash, and free shipping. You can use code CHGO at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide. That's shopmando.com, 20% off plus free shipping. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence with Mando. Ask any Chicagoan what the best weekend of the summer is. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say the Windy City Smokeout. No question. Guess what? It's back July 10th through the 13th. We're talking 4 full days of country music, ice cold drinks, in the all award-winning barbecue your stomach can handle. Does it get more summer than that? Seriously, though, nothing beats an outdoor concert in July. If you haven't grabbed your tickets yet, Thursday and Friday are still available. Country's biggest stars like Bailey Zimmerman, Old Dominion, Co Wetzel, and Dylan Gassett are going to be lighting up the stage. Do not miss out on the best weekend of the summer. Grab your Thursday and Friday tickets now at Windy City Smokeout.com. Again, that is windycitysmokeout.com to get your tickets. Grab them now, Thursday and Friday.
All right, Brendan, last block here.
Last block.
Did I forget anything besides Daniel Palencia? I mean, again, like I feel like even just taking a moment to like step back here, we've sort of peppered them in here throughout the broadcast, but like it is funny how things change in the game of baseball. Always a lesson to like chill out a little bit.
No, I'm being serious about that. That's what I said. That's why I said that earlier. Just
about what?
the way that the game changes so fast, right?
Oh yeah.
We can talk about, okay, you know, what's going to happen in the offseason with Tucker, what's going to happen in July and August and September. Can PCA sustain all this, right? But the reality is these guys make changes, and nothing about a computer is going to project that. And in reality, when you start looking at these projections, they all suck because these guys are humans and because they go through these unpredictable changes.
Yeah, 100%. But, you know, just thinking too about like, you know, that Houston series happened, obviously, you know, a massive narrative driven thing. I feel like I left a lot of money on the table. Like, so obvious Cam Smith was going to hit those homers. I'm not always a big gambler, but like I should have tried to cash in on that. It was literally the most obvious thing I've ever seen, just so everybody could talk about it. Right. But, you know, division lead shrunk. Milwaukee's winning these games, like, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, pulling back a little bit here, like after that series with Milwaukee and the Mets, the Cardinals have gone like a million straight innings without scoring. And I don't know if they did on Thursday or if they played, because I don't really care about the St. Louis Cardinals, but they went three games, I think, against the Pirates without scoring a run. It was phenomenal. So the division lead is back up to 4 on the Brewers, 5.5 on the Cardinals, 7 the Reds, and, you know, the Pittsburgh Pirates are where they are. PCA, Kyle Tucker, All-Stars, Matthew Boyd, like what a massive W for Jed Hoyer. Like, so much been made about Jed Hoyer. Obviously, he's in a contract year, like big W on that one. I mean, that's looking like one of the best free agent signings all offseason. Matthew Boyd has been absolutely spectacular. You getting production from these young guys. Like, I was sitting there at these last couple games and just taking it all in. Like I said, the crowd has been electric, but you just, you know, it sort of like slowly comes over you like this team is legit. This team is legit. They're in a good position. There's all these rumors about how like they're going to go for it at the deadline. Like Jed has what he needs to be bold at the deadline. You know, that's the stuff you're reading. We'll see what happens. But good moment. Things can change on a dime the other way or get even better, hopefully. But in this moment right now, after watching a Matt Shaw walk off on a night that Cade Horton started, feeling pretty good.
Got to feel pretty good. And
Fives are good.
there's 75 games left. Now, in one sense, that's a lot of games, but in the other sense, they've gotten through half the season performing well and did so when the first 6 weeks were really tough. They put themselves in a position where they are financially flexible. We're talking $25 million below that first tier of the luxury tax. They can spend above that first tier to get the guys if they want, but they are so flexible to make the moves they want to make.
Do you think that Jed is sitting there now going, well, you all yelled at me for having that money under the luxury tax, and guess who gets to use it to make a first place team better now?
Listen, we got to see results, right? You can have your process, you can execute or not execute it. Right now, he's executed. So, of course, he deserves some credit for it.
Yeah. And one last peel back, and then we'll get to Daniel Palencia. I promise. He deserves the time. Just with everything else, a reminder, and I feel like this is a good reminder too, especially when they scuffle, or if people like to, it's been a while since they beat a team with a winning record, whatever. They've beaten teams with winning records. If that's your jam to get upset about that, like whatever. A lot of season left, and what matters is getting to October and how they do in October. But I digress. Regardless, like of all these little things, they've done a lot right, Brendan, and they've done a lot better than other teams in baseball. And one of the things that will back that up for me is they currently have the second best record in the National League, trailing only the 55-win Dodgers. The Cubs have 52 wins and 35 losses. And they also have a better record than everybody in the American League, except for the Detroit Tigers. And they have the exact same record as the Houston Astros. So for whatever, if you want to move the goalposts or whatever small lens you want to look through, when they lose the series against Houston, like half of Cubs Twitter is like, they're not actually good. They're fake. They can't beat good teams because they split the first 2 games. And what did they lose that last game by? A couple runs? Like, give me a break. Whatever. Right?
It's a small fraction of the fan base. You're amplifying a small fraction.
It is. Well, I'm not amplifying. I'm yelling at them.
I know.
I'm chiding them.
I'll let you have it.
Regardless, the point is, like, Cubs have been really good, and they have quite literally, by any stretch, been one of the best teams in Major League Baseball to this point. That's
absolutely
cool.
I mean, it's very cool. And we talked about in the offseason, the Cubs front office survival is going to depend on whether or not they develop pitching this year, whether their bullpen gambles pay off, just in the same vein that has paid off for Milwaukee over the past few years. We've seen it in the chat. Chris Flexen, Drew Pomeranz, you mentioned it, Brad Keller.
Mm-hmm.
It's a roaring success that the bullpen has performed so well. And we've discussed this for months ad nauseum, and you're finally seeing the fruits of that labor pay significant dividends and generate meaningful wins for this team.
One more thing. The Chicago Cubs also have the best run differential in Major League Baseball.
That's right.
Not the National League, not the American League, Major League Baseball. Your Chicago Cubs. All right, so speaking of the bullpen, perhaps our last segment here for Thursday night. We talked about it in the offseason. You just mentioned it. If you weren't going to spend, and they did try, right? Like they tried to get Tanner Scott, it didn't work. He chose something else, whatever. If you're not going to load up the bullpen with just these established, like lights out guys, or do it via trade or spend, you have got to be winning on that margin and be better than other organizations at identifying, hey, this guy is a reclamation project. We're going to figure out how to tweak it to get him back to where he was in his career. Or we're going to bring up this young guy because we feel like he's ready and we can put him into a role. You just mentioned it, but the Cubs are doing this in every way. They're bringing up young guys and getting them into high leverage roles. They're bringing, guys out of these, TrackMan style workouts and putting them in the bullpen, getting success. They're turning old starters into guys that just don't ever give up runs ever. It's been phenomenal. So they have absolutely, that was one of the key areas Like, if you're going to take that strategy and that's going to be your approach, you got to be one of the top teams in the league at it. And they have absolutely nailed that. I mean, just incredible work thus far. And you never know, like, guys break down. You got to be prepared for that. Bullpens are fickle, very fickle, like month to month, week to week, day to day fickle. But incredible work by the front office and this pitching infrastructure to get the production that they have out of this bullpen. And I think no better example of that than Daniel Palencia. And we will use Daniel Palencia as our Taking the Temp segment of the week. That, of course, is brought to you by our wonderful sponsor, Four Seasons Heating&Cooling.com. They are your trusted local experts, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric. Visit Four Seasons Heating&Cooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That is Four Seasons Heating&Cooling.com. Brendan, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, they put on Gasolina at Wrigley Field. He comes out there and look, the song is quite literal, just throwing gas. But what a development, Brendan. Yeah. I mean, we sat here a couple months ago, and I'll ask you, but I want you to tell me, like, what Palencia is doing, what stands out to you as the guy digging into all these pitching metrics. But about a couple months ago, like, when we were talking about the deadline, I said almost verbatim, like, you're going to need that guy, game 7, bases loaded, 2 outs. Who is that guy you're calling out of the bullpen to get that strikeout, to be that guy, to put out the biggest fire, the highest leverage situation possible? And I didn't think that they had that person. Is that person Daniel Palencia?
He is absolutely one of those guys that could be that person. Now, there's some growing steps he needs to take to get to that point. Is he there now? Potentially. You want to see a larger sample. The trait that stands out the most from Palencia that hitters don't see is threefold. The first is his height. He's a shorter guy with a lower slot with a lot of extension. Okay, that's trait number 1. Number 2 is he throws 102 miles per hour. Okay, so you have a low slot guy with extension throwing 102. And then the third trait is he has a lot of actual run on his four seam. We've talked about cut ride for many of these Cubs pitchers, Keller, Flexen, and so on. It's the opposite for Palencia. So he has about average carry, but he has a lot more run to go with that fastball than most of the other Cubs pitchers. So what does that mean? Well, he has a low slot, okay, average carry, but the carry plays up because of that low slot. That's important at 102 with run. Then the difference this year versus last year, listen to Craig Counsell talk about it. Listen to Daniel Palencia talk about it. Look at it with your eyes. He's hammering his strike zone. So the misses are competitive. Even when he's missing or not missing, he's showing pitches on the black part of the zone. And even if he's missing in the dead center of the zone, it's weak contact. So you're getting what you want. You're getting competitive misses, but you're also getting pitches where he's not hitting his spots, generating weak contact or whiffs as well. Now, what is the next step that needs to happen? Well, we would like to get more whiffs. He has about a league average whiff rate for a closer, right? But he's generating weak contact. I think it's possible he gets more of those whiffs. And we've seen it throughout time. You talked about Emmanuel Clase. He has success with Cleveland despite having a slightly above average whiff rate. Now this year, whiff rate 95th percentile for a closer, and he's generated and improved that way. So I do think there's parallels with Palencia and Clase. And I do think just that natural uniqueness he has could lend to some better than what we've seen so far from the results standpoint. Which is good.
Well, and better than the results. The results have been excellent. 1.74 ERA, 2.83 FIP. So, a little bit of a discrepancy there, but the FIP is still good. You'd certainly take a 2.8 FIP. 31 innings, really good stuff from Daniel. And I, have said this before. We talked about this, but I keep going back to that game in Miami that Craig went back to him after he blew the save. And I think it was 2 days later that he came back for another close one, and showing that confidence in a young guy, and also Daniel growing from that moment. Like I really felt at the time like that was an important thing. And to see him now, he's got that swagger about them. He's screaming after the games. Like, he is growing into like feeling like I am the closer of this team. I am ready to get these big outs. All right, a little bit to talk about. We're going to finish up on fast here and head to overtime. Stick with us if you're watching on YouTube, and we will finish up the conversation in overtime. We weren't ready to be done. But yeah, like I feel like that was a really, to quote the great Pat Hughes on tonight, they're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the first radio broadcast there for the Chicago Cubs. Like, that felt like a turning point moment. Daniel Palencia was already doing great. The stuff was already trending in that direction. But it just felt like a really good moment from Craig Counsell. Not that I think anyone would have expected him to abandon Palencia there, but that was earlier in the year. There really wasn't a set like, oh, he's the closer, Brad Keller's the closer. Like, it was one of those moments not that long after, the Presley blow up and stuff like that against the Giants, where that was still kind of up in the air, and sticking with the young guy there and showing that belief in him. I do feel like that was a really important moment for Daniel, and he really grew from that and is now growing into that. Like, all right, I can hear the crowd making noise when I'm pumping 101 and 102. I'm making some of these guys look silly. I'm getting a lot of these big outs, and then Clark comes running out of the cage with his W flag. Like,
They keep him in a cage over there. Is that what they do?
It's not a cage, but it's like a utility closet in left field. I've seen the inside of it. There's one of the grounds crew workers who like is part of that. I wish I could remember I think he has a TikTok where he's shown the inside of like when they wait for the W, and then they both run out there. It's
cool.
Is
that true?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the big piece of Palencia that gives me the most encouragement is a representation of the pitching infrastructure. You talked about being patient with Palencia, getting him and his stuff to the point where he's closing games. They haven't done this for guys with his profile. Remember Manny Rodriguez? You may not, right? Manny Rodriguez has some similarities to Daniel Palencia. The first is they don't have that cut ride profile that other guys have. Manny Rodriguez with Tampa Bay, Corey, this year, 2.1 ERA. You know what it was last year? 2.2 ERA. So those guys develop outside of the Cubs organization with a different infrastructure. The Cubs have had success with their infrastructure with a similar mold of pitchers, and that's that cut ride profile. Palencia is not that guy. Right. So for me, when you have someone emerging as a bona fide closer with a completely different profile from what we've seen the Cubs had success with, that makes me believe, okay, this is a diverse, growing pitching infrastructure that gets beyond their strengths. And that gives me a lot of encouragement going forward. That way, we don't lose out on the next Daniel Palencia. We don't lose those Manny Rodriguez's from our organization that the Tampa Bay Rays start to develop. Yeah. And that's a great sign that we're seeing Palencia grow into that pitcher.
Yeah, and a good point from our friend EvilWax73 in the chat. Always appreciate you being here, sticking with us for these, however long we end up rambling on for. Another good trade from Jed Hoyer. Yeah. They got Daniel Palencia, who I at the time I'd have to go back and think of it, but I think like Deichmann was the bigger name in that trade, or the one that like people probably centered on. But for Andrew Chafin. So, that one, took a little bit of time, but that's the thing. Like, sometimes these things pay off. Going to be interesting at one point to relitigate the 2021 deadline. Just sitting here as one of those players has turned in. Now he's starting the All-Star game at 23. A long way to go in their career.
So is the other one too. The other outfielder.
I mean, truly amazing.
Truly amazing.
This is the Cubs Related podcast, and our mission is pretty much always to only talk about Chicago Cubs baseball for however long we're on with you. Technically, right? Like, talking about Javi Baez is talking about Detroit Tigers baseball, but especially after they beat Cleveland, we're talking about PCA. Unbelievable. One of those just like crazy occurrences that Pete's first All-Star game, he is going to start in center field opposite the man he was traded for. And like, congratulations to Javi Baez. I will love that forever. doing it at a third position, moving from the infield to the outfield. Incredible. Good for him, man.
Unbelievable. If anyone's going to do that switch, it's going to be Javi, right?
Right.
Just, I mean, it's
Now,
spectacular.
the real key, in 12 years, do you think Pete can start the All-Star game at shortstop? Mookie Betts moved to shortstop.
Listen, he can play shortstop. I know he's a lefty. I'm telling you right now, he can play short.
I have no doubt. Yeah.
I've seen lefties play shortstop at the high school level. They're they're good. Pete can just do a little bit of a loop-de-loop turn.
He'll figure it out. He'll just run the ball to first. He's fine. He's got it. Yeah.
I mean, he'll get there fast.
Look, like, for as much as it's very cool to see Javi do this, I'm very happy for him, especially like, him and KB. Like, you don't like watching these guys like struggle and put up bad numbers, and everybody's talking, oh, what a terrible trade, and wow, how far they've fallen. It's great to see Javi do this. And the only thing that could make me happier is meeting him and the Detroit Tigers in the World Series, and it all ending on Pete chasing down a ball in the massive alley in Detroit and robbing Javi Baez of what would be a World Series winning hit, only to land in Pete's glove, securing the Cubs' second World Series in the last decade.
Does it have to happen like that? I
Two
can't
tens
do it.
for you.
2 10s. I barely survived the first one.
Guarantee the win.
I barely survived the first one. Okay, yeah. Come on, just give me a sweep.
All right, I think that's what we have for you in this episode. Whatever you were doing over this holiday weekend, hopefully you have off of work. If you don't, I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you can enjoy your weekend anyway. And let's watch the Cubs take care of business against the St. Louis Cardinals. Once again, should be an electric atmosphere at Wrigley Field. It always is, but big crowds, everybody's home from school or off of work for the 4th of July. 2 rivals, Cubs in first place. Should be a great atmosphere. Brendan and I will be back with you next Thursday. We appreciate it. Once again, just wrapping everything up. The Cubs win 1-0 on Thursday night to complete a sweep of the Cleveland Guardians. The Cubs sitting now at 52-35, a 4-game lead over the Milwaukee Brewers in the National League Central. They are one of the best teams in baseball. They are sending 2 of their outfielders at minimum, to the All-Star game, but to start the All-Star game. Kyle Tucker is a Chicago Cub. He's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Vibes are good. It's a holiday weekend. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We appreciate you being with us. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.